Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of the Reimagine podcast. And Laura, good to see you.
It's great to be back, Paul, yet again, and excited for another episode.
Yeah, and we've got a very interesting entrepreneur who actually is an important partner of our company annuity business. Laura, do you want to do the intros?
It would be my pleasure. Today, joining us, we have Justin O'Keefe, CEO and founder of Memorial Asset Protection Plan. And Justin, for those who may not have heard of you or your business as of yet, please do us a favor and introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the podcast today. It's great to be here, and especially with y'all fine people and a great company. Yeah, I grew up in the funeral industry. Our family's been in the funeral business for over 157 years. That's 5 generations, and that's a long time. So, but my father, he got into the insurance business back in the 50s, and I'm one of 13 children. So, when I was growing up, he's like, hey, if you get a better education, you can help families with living problems too, not just with dying problems. So he sent me to Georgia State University in Atlanta, where I got a 4-year college degree in insurance and finance. And then they sent me to the American College in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, where I got my chartered life underwriter degree, my chartered financial consultant degree, and my chartered advisor of philanthropy degree. So I've been working with families in the financial planning and funeral business now for over 30 years, and it's been very rewarding.
Yeah, well, tell us, about the types of problems. What are the biggest problems getting into this business? Obviously, you went to school, you got your degree, Justin. I'm sure, the first week out, you had clients, waiting for you to buy policies, right?
Well, the thing about it is, Paul, for many years, I had 2 lives, I had my funeral life and I had my financial planning life, and they were separate. And so I would run my Social Security seminars. I would run my roundtable lunch and learns for financial planning. I would have my, individual, let's have a meal and let's discuss financial planning. And then the rest of the day I would be over, pre-planning people's funerals at the funeral home and helping them out and helping take care of their affairs if their spouse or what have you need to go into a long-term care facility. We would discuss, how to adjust their funds and so forth to handle that. Well, what I learned over a period of years of doing this, when people die, money moves. And that's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. In other words, the money has a life of its own. And so it doesn't die. And when the person passes away, the money just continues living and it's going somewhere. Now, where it's going to go, that's the big question. So what I started noticing was that all of a sudden I started capturing a lot of my money for financial planning into the financial planning business from, the funeral industry side of things. And so it only took me a couple years to determine, oh man, well, I don't need to spend money, all these, $40, $50, $100,000 on all these financial planning seminars anymore, because I have enough money moving naturally through the funeral industry that comes right into my practice. And so not only did it save me a lot of money by starting this method of marketing, but also it helps families.
Yeah, well, I worked at, I started my career at MetLife, and, one of the most successful programs there at the company was something called Delivering the Promise. And that was, Laura, delivering the death claim check to the survivors. And Justin, it was interesting. What was it a great marketing opportunity? It was also the agents I talked to who actually delivered these checks. I mean, it was a sort of a life-changing event for people to actually see the product actually work. So kind of tell us, yes, there's the financial opportunity, but it must also be an incredibly moving point in time to connect with people who have passed, but also the people who have are receiving a legacy.
Yes, and actually, I just got off the phone with a widow this morning, and she expressed so much gratitude. She's like, Justin, you don't know how much this means to me that you are helping me through this to transfer those funds into my name from my husband and set up my income where I don't have to worry about all of that. And and I think about this guy down in Florida who was a funeral home owner, and a widow had come in. She, just like you, somebody had delivered a $300,000 death claim check to her. Well, she brought it into the funeral home, and she was sitting with the funeral home owner and said, "Hey, I have this check. What am I going to do with this check?" And the funeral home owner says, "Well, I don't know. Let me think about it, and I'll get back to you on that." Well, he put the check on his desk. Well, that check for $300,000 sat on his desk for over 3 months because he didn't know where to put the money. And that's what we are doing with our system, is we are kind of bringing financial planners and funeral people together where they can be like, "Hey, you need this person, you need somebody to take care of your money. I've got the guy for you, or I've got the gal for you. You're going into a long-term care facility. You need some help. Well, I've got the person who can help arrange your finances to make that a smooth transition." Well, you've got 10,000 people a day turning 65. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, I don't know if you looked around, Paul, but I mean, if you get in your car and you make a loop around, a 30-mile loop or a 60-mile loop, you're probably going to see at least no less than 3 to 5 long-term care adult living facilities being built, because that is where people are going now. I mean, the bottom line is we live in a retirement age where people are moving. I mean, that is the largest segment of our market. And we meet those people where they need it the most, whenever these life-changing decisions are coming their way, whether it's going into a facility or, death has occurred, or they're preparing for passing away. I shared with you, I think, before we got started today, about a client of mine that I brought some gumbo to, and this weekend, a very nice guy. He's actually a client of mine, 52 years old, and he's sitting there looking me in the face and telling me that he's undergoing now some strenuous chemo treatment, and he's not expected to live. And man, he's very, it was tough to see that. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is the financial industry is just not about money. I mean, it's about people. It's about you, Paul. It's about you, Laura. It's about each and every person. We live in a high-tech society today. That's true. But at the end of the day, when you turn off that cell phone, you turn off that computer, you're still a person, and we can't forget that.
Yeah. So talk to us a bit about your system. Right. I want to, Justin, you're right. In fact, almost in my backyard is, on a university campus, a huge project is going up for assisted living. Okay, great. I want to connect with these people. I want to serve them. I could spend a lot of money on Google ads or Facebook ads or TikTok videos ads. Tell me about your solution.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. And I'm really glad you shared that, because, that's what the problem is what you just said. And I'm going to tell you what the solution is. But the problem is, well, how do you find what you need today? Oh, well, Google. Yeah, well, you're not feeling well. Well, let's check with Dr. Google. Well, you don't know who's on the other end of that link. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you may be talking to MD Anderson, or you may be talking to some other large hospital medical group or what have you. But the bottom line is, is you need to see somebody today. It's not something you're going to go jump in your car. And it's the same thing with financial services. And it's the same thing with long-term care facilities. In other words, I don't really know who I need to talk to. And so what our system does is it makes those connections. In other words, we have over 4,000 funeral homes that are in our system. They set over 80,000 appointments a year. And they speak with families. Wow. I mean, that many families, annually. And we have long-term care facilities. Brookdale's one of the largest ones in the nation. And we're adding day by day. But when somebody calls up that facility right around the corner that you're that's being built by your home or office there, and they say, well, what do I need to do to prepare to get into your facility? Well, our system handles that. In other words, they just press the button on the phone. They put the information right there at that facility, and it immediately will send a notice to the financial advisor, to the attorney, to the pre-planner, to their Medicare supplement people, to their Medicare Advantage people. If they need to transfer assets to nonprofits, it connects all those dots instantaneously right there in your hometown. And that's the key. In other words, it's people dealing with people. In other words, if I request information today, on whether it's on a pre-plan or whether it's a financial plan or doctors or whatever it may be, I don't really want to speak with somebody on the other side of the country because they don't really know what it's like in my market area or what my needs are, because I live right down the road from the facilities being built. And so that's what I want to know about. And so what we do is we connect that person with the person that's going to help them in real time. And they pick up the phone, make that call, and satisfy those needs. And so it gives the families the peace of mind of knowing that, wow, I don't have to spend all day trying to Google search people and now I'm trying to figure out, who's the right one to call and who's one's closest by me and all of that information.
So are you building something like a place for mom.com? I mean, that company, people don't realize how successful that company is in placing people in long-term care facilities, and yet they don't own to my knowledge, they don't own a single facility. Justin, are you trying to build something like that for pre-needs planning or the financial planning associated with it?
Well, what we're trying to do, like you say, moms.com, that is strictly, for long-term care facilities. And so what our system is doing is much different. In other words, what it wants to do is provide a holistic approach to a person's needs. So in other words, mom.com, well, what about her money? How's that going to be handled? What about her pre-planning? How is that going to be handled? What about, mom wants to donate $1 million piece of property to the university that she graduated from, her alma mater, because, the kids are all successful and they don't really need the money. Who is going to handle that for mom? And so what we do is we handle all of those things. In other words, this one-stop shop, so to speak, allows the person to determine, okay, well, what are my needs? Do I need some philanthropy connections to donate whatever I have? I want to go like my brother, he graduated from Harvard. Do I want to donate it there? Or, my sister, who's an attorney up in D.C., she graduated from law school in Chicago. And so do I want to, send it to the law school that she graduated from? Or, do I need an attorney to redo my entire estate because I've lost a child that's passed away, and so we need to redo things because I had a third of my estate going to this particular child, and that child didn't have any children, and so now we've got to kind of redo things a little bit. So that's what this system does that we created to help families. whether you walk into a funeral facility to do pre-planning, you're going to be offered, hey, do you need long-term care for your relatives? Do you need this, that, and the other? If you walk into a long-term care facility, you're going to get, do you need these other things as well? And so depending on which way you come in through the system, they will identify or help the person identify, hey, well, we really need to get this taken care of for you. And we can do it instantaneously with a professional that's right here in our town.
So Justin, talk to us a little bit about the system. So I'm kind of going through this process in a way. My husband's grandparents, we've placed them into a facility. We're going through and answering these questions that we never thought that we would ever have to ask. And half of them we didn't even know we needed to ask. So is the process, is it people-based? Is it something that a client can do online? Is it a combination of both? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's a combination of both. We have like a landing page where whenever either, like say that you went into the facility and you sat down with them and they gave you a stack of papers and you said, okay, we'll start working on these papers, because there's lots of information to go through. And so the first thing that you're going to be thinking about is, wow, do I need to get an attorney to help me with this? And what are we going to do with mom and dad's property? And so now we're into somebody dealing with real estate. And now what about, do they need pre-plans? Oh yeah, well, we better set up some pre-plans as they're going into this facility, because what happens if they pass away in the facility? And so, either the family member, like you can go into the site, click on each one of these, whatever you may think you need, click the button, and then it goes through our site, and then instantaneously, we will have someone reach out to you in those particular areas of interest. And some people have additional interest. Some people don't have interest. For instance, like we have also cryptocurrency. Well, your grandparents may not have cryptocurrency, but you may. You know what I'm saying? In other words,
right.
A lot of people, they don't know what to do about that when death occurs, and because that can just evaporate with the electronic wallet and all of that sort of thing. And so this system addresses all of those different needs. So it can be either customer facing or the person at the long-term care facility can pull it up and say, okay, well, look, Laura, I'm glad that you and your husband brought, the parents in here and so forth. And by the way, they will need to set up some pre-plans for a funeral. And so I'm going to click this box right here. Our connected funeral provider will reach out to you to help you, assist you with that. I see that they have, a lakefront piece of property and also the beach house. And so you'll probably need to sell that, or, transfer it into your name or put it into a trust or whatever you want to do. So I'm going to click on this button as well, and we'll have a real estate professional reach out to you that can handle those needs, and then so forth and so on. And so it can be done either way, either through the facility initiated information or individually initiated.
Yeah, no, selling through institutions is tricky. Tell us about the partnerships you've built to this point.
Yeah, so right now our main partner is Precoa, which is the Pre-Need Company of America, and they market for over 4,000 funeral homes nationwide. And that's our biggest partner because they set 80,000 appointments a year, so they're uncovering a bunch of these needs already. And so anyway, for instance, like if, say, you're sitting there at your house and you live there in Hartford or wherever you may be, and you get a piece of mail from the funeral home in the mail. And it says, Smith Funeral Home, are you interested in pre-planning, or whatever it says. Well, the chances are 9 times out of 10, the funeral home did not generate that piece of mail. It was probably generated from a third-party marketer, such as Precoa, the Pre-Need Company of America. And so because funeral home owners traditionally are in the order-taking business, and, they don't do something until, somebody actually passes away, then they jump into action. And so they don't preactively go out and try to get people to pre-plan. And so that's where these pre-need marketers come into place. Then we also have Brookdale, which is the largest long-term care facility provider in the country. And they're extremely excited about this partnership. And they have over 2,000 facilities nationwide. And so when people go into the Brookdale facility, or they call up inquiring, I say, I want to come in or prepare. Well, then we have the system to handle all those questions to answer them, whether it's legal, financial, funeral, whatever it may be. And we connect those dots. And then we also have a partnership with Memories out of Australia. That's a worldwide company that allows a person to go online and also kind of create a timeline or a video remembrance of their family while they're still alive. And it's almost a storybook, an electronic version of a storybook. And that's all at no charge. And by the way, these services all are at no charge. I mean, the only charge would be is if a person actually employed something for whatever reason that they needed to do that. And so these are some of our great partnerships, just to name a few. And we have many more coming online. So it makes it all very exciting.
Justin, talk to us about the team with the breadth and the scope of what you're doing and the partnerships you have, and you're meeting people individually, you're bringing them gumbo, you're creating these lasting memories, and it's a lot. Is it just you? Talk to us about how many people are behind the scenes here really making this happen.
Yeah, so right now we're in a building part of this program, building phase, and so right now we have, as I'd mentioned, pre-COVID with over 4,000 funeral homes, and they're setting 80,000 appointments a year. So we're building out all of the other service providers to them. We have over 2,000 financial advisors that we're bringing online, and so right now we have over 30 currently actually actively getting leads from funeral homes. And we're adding those every day. And what happens is, like I said, if somebody needs that service, well, they'll put the information in. They'll go through our confidential website in Phoenix, Arizona, and then it'll zing straight back to that town and ding on the financial advisor's phone, or it will ding on the long-term care facilities computer, where they will all of a sudden know that somebody needs their services or is requesting their services. And they will reach out to them and take care of that family member. So I have computer people that are doing the Salesforce underneath data in California and in Florida. And we have advisors right now in California, Florida, Georgia, up in the Northeast. We have them in North Carolina, Arkansas, Texas. We've kind of got them spread out geographically throughout the country, but we're adding them on, daily. They're being more added to it.
Yeah, we talked to a nameless, relatively large lead gen company. You'd know it if I named it. We're talking to them about a partnership. So, Justin, I try anything myself to see what it's like. I went through, filled out the information, put my phone number. Oh my God, Laura, I had my mobile phone was ringing every 20 minutes for about 24 hours.
Oy.
Justin, what's the experience like for me? If I've talked to somebody, do I get 5 calls from different advisors? How does it work? How does it feel for me as a potential client?
Yeah. So this is a much different experience because what we're doing is we're not actually selling the leads or just farming them out there for people to buy. It's more of a one-on-one type of thing. In other words, for instance, like say if you were to come in and request information through our program, well, you're going to be contacted by one long-term care facility if you request that, by one financial planner if you request that, by one funeral home, funeral provider, if you request that information. And so we're only providing one professional who has been vetted by our professionals that they are qualified to provide those services in a professional way, and we want them representing us. And so you're only going to get that one person. Now, the only time that you would get a secondary person is if you actually said, oh, well, that person called me and I didn't really like the way they sounded. Do you have anybody else I could speak with? Or, hey, my grandfather and his parents, they used that funeral home for over 30 years or 50 years, 100 years. Do you have somebody at that funeral home that could reach out to us? Those would be the only time that you would actually ever get a call from a secondary person. And so we don't believe in just putting a person's name out there because of that issue you just talked about. I mean, I've done that myself. I mean, I've requested information and all of a sudden it's like, man, I cannot get this off of my phone because I've get these calls and they don't stop. And, but that's not the case with our system. It's much more individualized and personalized.
So 2,000 advisors come on board. You've got some very large partnerships. Justin, death is a growing business here for you. What does it take to scale the business?
Yeah.
What does it take to scale your operations?
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, what we're doing to scale right now, which is very important, is, for one thing, the death care industry is a unique industry all in itself. And, I haven't covered the story of my son passing away, but I will do that before we end the podcast today. But, the bottom line is that, it's a very sensitive industry. And so, not many people want to go to a funeral home, and not many people want to pre-plan. I mean, although a lot of them do. I mean, tens of thousands of people do pre-plan. And then financial planning, that's a separate industry altogether. As I started the podcast and I told you I had two separate lives. Well, I kept them separate because I didn't know how to combine them. And that's where the problem comes in. So scaling this business involves having someone that has a little bit of knowledge of both financial planning and the funeral industry, going into town and saying, hey, Mr. Financial Planner, hop in the car with me. We're going to ride over to the funeral home. I'm going to introduce you to the funeral home owner. I'm going to introduce you to the people who work there. I'm going to introduce you to the secretary so they know when they send a lead through the system who it's going to. And so they put a person to that name. And that's all the difference in the world. And, but to get that financial planner to do that themselves, it's not really going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Because people, they don't know how to make that approach. And so that's what entails with scaling this business, is connecting those dots.
Justin, do you have any tips? It sounds like, 5 generations within the industry, you have people skills in so many ways that, people are not used to seeing, let's just say that. Do you have tips for somebody who might not know how to approach someone or actually speak to humans in person? A lot of what we do is either behind the camera, over the phone. If I'm a founder and I'm thinking, this sounds great, I don't know where to start, what would you recommend?
Yeah, well, the most important thing is that when you speak with a person or you handle someone is to realize that if someone requests you, then you're no longer a salesperson. In other words, I'm not selling anything, and I don't sell anything. All I do is I take orders, because in reality, people know what they want. They want peace of mind. They want to move their money into Nassau to get that money protected. They want to get an income rider, or they want to get an accumulation, or a death benefit, or a long-term care benefit. In other words, they want specific needs. And so the most important advice I could give someone is, hey, you do not have to sell anything. What you have to do is just talk to that person and ask them, what do you want? How can I be of service to you today?
Mm-hmm.
What makes things important to you? And they will tell you. They will say, look, well, just like that widow that called me this morning, she's like, wow, man, I am so grateful that you're setting up this stream of income for me, that I don't have to worry about calculating my RMDs on every year and making sure the insurance company's doing the right calculation, or the financial advisor or whoever. You're taking care of that need for me. And so, at the end of the day, we're all in people business. I mean, you're working there, both you and Paul, at these great companies and for a great company. And, but you're communicating every day, with people in your organization that, to help, improve their life. And that's what this is all about, helping families one person at a time.
Interesting. And I guess, Justin, what's your why? Why do this? Start a new company when you've already got, sounds like massively successful business in your home state.
Well, the biggest reason why it all came about is I had lost my son, in 2010. He got killed in a car wreck. And I was pretty shocked when that happened, 29 years old. He just got divorced on Friday, that particular Friday, and then he got killed on Monday, 3 days later. And so I became the legal next of kin. And so I had to go to the funeral home. I wasn't working at the funeral home at the time or doing any pre-planning. I was doing just straight financial planning business, and I'd gotten out of it altogether. And so as I was sitting in there, then guess who comes to the arrangement conference? The ex-wife of 3 days. And she sits down at the table, and she looks at me, and she looks at my brother who is arranging my son's funeral. And she says, look, I am not here to bury your son. She said, I'm here to collect a certified death certificate because that life insurance belongs to me. And it literally stunned me so bad. And quite frankly, I was speechless. And I looked at my brother and I said, well, let me tell you something. I said, Adam will be buried 3 days from now with or without her money. And I got up and I walked down to there. And so when that day happened, I started realizing, well, what's the significance of that? That is huge. That significance of that certified death certificate. What that was representing. And so that's when I started following, well, what happens after a death? And that's when I started seeing that good things don't happen, because a lot of times people are not prepared and they have not planned and they have not changed these beneficiaries and they have not done the things that they need to do. And so that's what I started noticing, is that every time I go meet with a family, they'd be like, oh, well, I didn't order enough certified death certificates, because I forgot I had that timeshare in Colorado and that little beach house in Florida. And so I'm waiting on more certified copies. And then the next family I go see, they'll be, well, I ordered 20 certified death certificates. I only needed 8. What am I going to do with these other 12 that I paid $5 a piece for? Now, it's not the principle of the $5. It's the principle that they paid for something they know they can't use. And so that's when I started trying to figure out, well, what do you need a certified death certificate for? And it took me a few years to do that, a couple of years. But when I finally got the answer, then all of a sudden the light bulb went off. I was like, wow, not only do I know everything about you, but now I know everything you got too, in a real natural way. Mm-hmm. And that's when millions of dollars started moving every year. And I stopped all my Social Security seminars, and I stopped spending any dime on financial marketing, because I already knew what the person had. And life became very good. And so I saw this as an opportunity to scale this because I was already partnered with the largest pre-need company in America. And for me at this age, I'm bringing in a much younger group of people that's going to be running this company. But the bottom line is it helps families. It identifies, exposes what they need to do, whether it's long-term care, whether it's pre-planning, whether it's move your money, whether it's legal, whatever it is, it helps families. And that's, to me, what is so important.
So, Justin, if people want to learn more, where do they go? What website should they visit? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so they can go to the MAPP website, which is www.mappnetwork.com, and just fill out your information and send me a request, and I'll be glad to get you any information you'd like. I mean, we have the chances are we have several marketers or people in your area, whether it's financial planners, whether it's funeral homes, whether it's long-term care facilities, or whatever it may be, to satisfy whatever needs that you would like. Or if you want to get into the marketing part of it, we certainly welcome new partners. And it's all very exciting.
Yeah. Hey, well, Justin, thanks so much. Thanks for sharing, these, a tough story with us. And it's great to see something constructive come out that maybe helps a lot more people in the same situation. So, and we'll put all those links in the show notes for anybody who's listening. Just, click in there, look in there and follow the links. But Justin, thank you. Laura, it was good. And, listen, join us all again next week for another episode of the Reimagine podcast. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.